What's up, America? Juan here with the RAO. We got a quarantine video today, doing some brakes on a 2011 Chevy Silverado. Show you the beginning of the problem here. Brake fluid is low. You can see here, if you jig a little bit, we're down at the minimum mark. And we've also got a noise from the left front. So pay attention to the video here. We're going to show you how to do it. Alright guys, we're going to go over the tools needed for this relatively easy job. I'm going to start over here. We got two ratcheting wrenches. These are extra long ones, 18 millimeter, 19 millimeter. Got your regular flat blade screwdriver, snap-on half-inch drive impact wrench. Makes everything easier. We're using air tools today, a little different than usual. We got a whizzer or a little grinder here. I'll show you where that works later. Form of grease or silicone. We're using white lithium here. Torque wrench, useful for the wheels, and I'll show you again where that can be used. Got a breaker bar. Variety of styles of pushing caliper pistons in. This one here is 35 bucks. It's basically does it all on its own. Maybe a pair of channel locks or old school C-clamp. Regular air ratchet here. Makes everything go quicker. We're going to use a small impact here. We're going to have a T30 Torx on it, which is a star bit. That's to take the rotor itself off. Type of brake grease, we're using a ceramic grease here. I'm using Permatex today. There's also a silicone-based one, which is basically called the Sil Glide. And last but not least, favorite Frosty Better. Guys, quick little pointer for you. On this truck, the center cap has built-in lug nut covers. So these just basically twist off until they're loose, and then this will come off. So don't try to rip them off. Otherwise, you're going to end up breaking them, which they are replaceable, but they're probably about $5 a piece at the local store. So just be easy on them. I want to show you one quick thing here. You need a Torx bit, which is a 6-sided little star bit. This is a T30. They come in, it's called T-Series basically, so you got anything from T8 up to like T60, T70. It's right here on the actual rotor itself between these two studs. So basically you just, typically can just break it loose, but using the impact kind of helps it. So once you line it up, hit it a couple times, pops it right out. All right guys, we're getting ready to actually get the brake job done. I like to just use a screwdriver here, right in this hole. You can actually get it in right over the side. And then if you're able to pull back a little bit, you're able to retract the pistons a little bit, just to make it easier to slide the caliper off. So next, right after that, you got two bolts. You got one here, right here, one down here. They're both 19 millimeters, so all you got to do is using, a ratchet, or in my case, this ratcheting wrench. Line it up. You're gonna pull up on this side, break that one free. I like to break the top one free as well, and then just screw the bottom one out. And then the caliper, you can just slide straight up and push right off the bracket. Next, this is the actual caliper bracket, or the saddle if you will, and then there's two bolts that hold this on. There's one right here, one right here. These are both 18 millimeter. On this truck, they use a yellow Loctite from the factory, so they are extremely tight. So you're going to want to get a pretty long breaker bar. Like I showed you earlier in the video, this is a 2-foot. This is the Harbor Freight Chinese Special. And we use this to break them loose, and then I'm just going to use the air ratchet. If you don't have an air ratchet, a regular ratchet works just fine. Alright guys, so here's what we experienced on the truck here. So we have a right hand here. This is the outside pad, which you can see still got quite a bit of life. Inside pad, basically done. It's down to what's called the squeaker, which is on the side here. Little piece of metal, rubs on the rotor when you turn, or even when you just hit the brakes. So what happened here is this inside pad got stuck inside the actual bracket, and it wasn't able to retract, so it was just constantly wearing down on the system itself. That is not how a rotor should look. If you flip it over, that's what a good riding rotor looks like. Alright guys, pointer number 2. right on your hub surface here, where the rotor sits. Ours luckily came off easy. Most of the time they're rusted to this, so we have to pound them off with a hammer. I like to use, again, white lithium grease, CRC for our brand today. Just spray right on here. Leaves a little residue, doesn't let the rust come through. And put the rotor right on. Don't forget to line up your hole. Don't forget to put your T30 back in. Alright guys, next step here on the bracket itself, we're just going to do a little cleaning. You got 2 points here where the pads ride on both sides. You got one here, one on the other side. I use a little grinder here. It's called a whizzer basically. Little cutoff wheel. I like to use that to clean. You could also use a wire brush, something, you know, even a file if you need to, just to clean the rust off of it basically, just to get the pads to be able to slide. Alright guys, next, using your brake grease, I like to just apply a little bit back to those areas you cleaned. Basically anywhere where metal is going to touch another piece of metal, it's best to put some grease, some lube there. Once again, it's either silicone or in our case here, the ceramic grease. Next step is we're just going to put the pads into the bracket. So the pads we use here, CarQuest, we went with the gold package, which is their basic ceramics. It includes new hardware. So we went ahead and put that on, and then once again, anywhere the pad, you know, anywhere metal is going to touch, put grease. And then your slide pins, you got 2 of them again. One here, one here. We already took one out. Went ahead and put new grease on there. This is the biggest thing to make sure you grease, so your pads and everything slide, so they retract and they don't wear out unevenly like ours did here. So put that in there. On your pad itself, you've got the inside pad. I'll show you here in a second. These just slide into the groove here. Make sure they slide, leave them out. The inside pad, once again, it uses a squeaker here, which is that little silver clip there. Basically down to 1 millimeter or so in wear at least. This one always goes on the inside, at least on the caliper side, as that pad typically wears quicker than the rest. Then you set this up, and then we're going to lay it on the right on the rotor. Line up your bolts. One there. One there. Oh, we start your bolts by hand. Alright guys, we're just going to go ahead and tighten up those 2 bolts we just started. And then there is a torque spec for these. I like to typically torque these bracket bolts. You just don't want them to come out. We're going to go to 140 on those, which we'll show you the torque wrench sequence here in a second. Alright guys, we got our torque wrench set to 140. I'm just going to pull it. We got the click style here. Just going to pull it. Get a click. Go to the top one. Alright guys, last step here before getting it all put together. Got to push your 2 pistons in. We're going to use the help here to get this in. You want to set yours up. So basically when you start to push this in, as you push one piston in, the other one's going to want to come out opposite of it. So this is where we just use 2 different styles. Go ahead and start. As you can see it start to tweak, you're just going to basically put this one in. And then as he pushes, you're going to push the same amount on the other one. And it will bottom out. I like to use an old pad in there just to protect the pistons. And that's it. If you guys don't have the specialty tools and you just want to use the C-clamp, you can use that still. Same idea. Brake pad in there. You're just going to use it right here on the back side of the piston. Push in one. You're going to have to kind of go back and forth between the 2. And then once they're pushed in, that's it. Alright guys, last step here. Again, these are 2 19mm bolts, one top, one bottom. Other one's down on the bottom. Let's go ahead and tighten them up. I typically just go there and then don't use the whole length if you have long ones. Just kind of give it a good snug. Just a little more. Same on the bottom side. Tighten it up. Come up maybe, 30 degrees. Good torque. That's it. Final step here, torque the wheels. This is probably one of the most important parts of it to keep the rotors from warping, basically. Truck spec on the lug nut says 140 foot-pounds, so as you saw Tony doing when he put the wheel on, he did a star pattern to, zip them down. Had the gun turn all the way down, it only goes to about 50 foot-pounds or so. Just get some started, and then we're going to use the torque wrench. Once again, 22 millimeter on the lug nuts. Once again, most important is the star pattern to keep the torque distributed evenly. Start at 1, and then basically going to go straight across, up and over, down and over, straight across, down and over. And that's it. All right, guys. Last step. Add your brake fluid so it's full. You got to make sure you pump your brake pedal to get the pistons extracted so that you have a brake pedal when you start the truck. Start the truck, don't put it in any gear. Pump your brake. Usually 2 or 3 times. You'll feel it be nothing, and then the third time usually it'll get hard. Our next step here, we're going to do a procedure that's called bedding the brakes. It's basically you're adhering your brake pads to the rotor. And we're going to show you how to do that procedure. Basically, you're going to get onto a safe spot, and you're going to get up to about 45 miles an hour, and get on the brakes pretty hard. Not going to lock them up or anything, but you're going to get on pretty hard down to about 15 miles per hour. Then you're going to do that twice over, and then you're just going to, just do a regular drive from there. Here's your 2 stops. And then you're going to drive just normal, bring it back, and just double check everything is good. Alright guys, that finishes up the brake job. Tony's truck here is 2011 Silverado. Same kind of brake setup. Should honestly fit probably like 99, the new body style trucks up through. I mean, it should probably be 2018 or newer. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't done the newer trucks yet, but I know that brake system's been used for quite a while, so. That finishes up. That's how I do it. That's how we do our things here. So appreciate you checking out the video. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and our website at realamericanoutdoor.com.